A couple of months ago, Philadelphia looked stuck. Now the roster looks completely different. Jaylen Brown replaces Paul George. LeBron James enters the picture. The bench makes more sense. And suddenly, this team goes from uncertain to one of the most interesting bets in the league. That does not mean the Sixers are perfect. There are still health questions, age concerns, and some awkward fit issues. But this is no longer the same Philadelphia team. This is a much higher ceiling version.
Coming into the offseason, the Sixers did not look like a team with many paths forward. The most realistic move felt like trying to move Paul George. Even then, the expectation was probably a weak return and some asset loss. Instead, Philadelphia found a way to turn that situation into Jaylen Brown. That changed the entire direction of the roster, because before that move, the Sixers still looked top-heavy, fragile, and dependent on too many things going right at once. After that move, they suddenly had a real two-way wing at a premium position. Then the rest of the offseason started making more sense. Dean Wade adds size and flexibility. Simons adds another offensive option. And then LeBron James changes everything. That is the point where this stops being a normal retool. It becomes a serious structural reset. The reason this matters is simple. Philadelphia did not just add talent, it changed the way the roster fits together. And if you want more sharp NBA breakdowns like this, hit subscribe, because this video is just getting started.
The biggest offensive change is not just LeBron's production, it is his control. For years, too much of Philadelphia's offense depended on difficult creation. Too many possessions ended with Maxey or Embiid having to rescue a broken play. That made the offense more exhausting than it needed to be. LeBron fixes that. He becomes the primary organizer. He settles possessions down. He gets the ball where it needs to go. He reduces waste. That is especially important for Maxey. Maxey is at his best when he can attack space, play off movement, and punish defenses that are already tilted. He can create, but the more he is forced to do everything, the more demanding his role becomes. With LeBron on the floor, Maxey can return to a more efficient balance. He still handles the ball plenty, but now he does not have to be the full-time stabilizer. That should improve both his efficiency and his late-game energy. For Embiid, the value is just as important. LeBron gives Philadelphia a second true offensive organizer, which means Embiid does not need to initiate or force offense as often. He can operate in cleaner spots, conserve energy better, and play more within the flow. That alone raises the team's offensive ceiling.
Jaylen Brown is the move that makes the entire idea credible. Without him, this still looks like another top-heavy team asking too much from older or injury-prone stars. With him, the Sixers finally have a powerful two-way wing who can carry real offensive responsibility without needing the entire system built around him. That matters for several reasons. First, Brown gives Philadelphia downhill pressure. He can bend the defense without needing 15 dribbles to do it. Second, he helps on the perimeter defensively. That becomes even more important on a roster with older stars and a center who has to be managed carefully over a long season. Third, Brown reduces the amount of offensive burden on both Maxey and Embiid. Now there is another player who can score in isolation, in transition, and out of second-side actions. He is not a perfect player. There will still be stretches where the handle gets loose or the reads get rushed, but the overall value is obvious. This roster needed a wing with real star-level force. Now it has one.
Maxey could be the biggest winner in all of this. That is not because he becomes less important. It is because his role becomes more efficient. In previous versions of this team, Maxey often had to be both the scorer and the organizer.
That is a difficult balance, especially for a player whose speed is most dangerous when he can attack an already shifting defense. Now, he can spend more time in those favorable situations. He can run off the ball more. He can attack against weaker matchups. He can work against less set defenses. And he should get more possessions where the first advantage has already been created for him. That is a major difference. Instead of constantly generating from scratch, Maxey gets to function inside better offensive conditions. That usually leads to better shot quality, faster decisions, and more consistent pressure. In a lot of ways, this roster gives him the context he has been missing. This version of the Sixers does not need Joel Embiid to do less because he is worse. It needs him to do less because the team is finally good enough to ask for smarter usage. That is a very important distinction. When Embiid has had to dominate every possession, the results can still be great in the short term, but over a full season, that level of burden becomes difficult to maintain physically. This roster should reduce the number of possessions where he is forced into difficult self-created offense late in the clock. It should also reduce the need for him to constantly serve as both the main scorer and the main offensive bailout. That gives him a better chance to preserve energy, stay efficient, and remain more effective deeper into the year. Of course, the health concern does not disappear. It is still the biggest question surrounding the Sixers. But if the goal is to build a team that can survive more of the regular season and still keep a high playoff ceiling, this is the right direction.
Offensively, the logic is clear. Defensively, the questions get harder. This team has capable defenders, but not all of them are at the same stage physically. LeBron is no longer an every-possession defensive eraser. Embiid cannot be expected to carry every backline responsibility at full force over a long season. And depending on lineups, there could be stress points involving point-of-attack containment and transition defense. That is where the supporting pieces matter. Jaylen Brown helps immediately on the wing. Dean Wade gives lineup flexibility. VJ Edgecombe has real activity and upside defensively. If KCP is part of the real rotation, that adds another stabilizing perimeter defender. Nick Nurse becomes central here. He does not need this defense to be dominant every night. He needs it to be adaptable, connected, and playoff viable. That means the Sixers may need to win with scheme variation, size, and situational discipline, rather than pure defensive overwhelm. This is probably the biggest determining factor in how far they can actually go.
One of the most important parts of the offseason is that the depth chart now looks more coherent. Dean Wade is the kind of role player good teams need. He gives size, spacing, and lineup flexibility without demanding touches. Simons gives Philadelphia another scoring source, which matters when star-heavy teams inevitably go through staggered rotations and injury management. KCP, if he gives them reliable minutes, adds experience and defensive value at a very low cost. Then there are the younger pieces. VJ Edgecombe is particularly important because he gives the roster an athletic dimension it needs. He can defend, slash, and play with real pace. He does not need to be a star immediately to matter. That is the key with this group. The Sixers no longer need every young player to solve a major problem instantly. Now those players can fit into more reasonable roles. That makes development cleaner and depth more sustainable. For all the upside here, this is not some automatic title team. There are still serious concerns. LeBron's age matters. Embiid's durability matters. Brown's decision-making in certain moments still matters. The spacing could get awkward in some lineups. The defensive fit could look slow or vulnerable against certain opponents. Those are not minor issues, but they are different from the issues Philadelphia had before. Before, the Sixers felt too predictable and too fragile. Now they feel complicated but dangerous. That is an upgrade. In the playoffs, perfection is rare.
What matters is whether a team has enough talent, creation, versatility, and defensive answers to survive matchup stress. Philadelphia now has a much stronger case than it did before.
The case for this team is not that it is flawless. The case is that it can generate elite offense, survive non-Embiid minutes better than before, and put multiple star-level creators and scorers on the floor at once. That is a serious formula. LeBron gives them control. Maxey gives them speed and shot creation. Brown gives them wing force. Embiid gives them interior dominance and offensive gravity. The role players make the lineups more believable. That combination creates a real ceiling. And maybe more importantly, it gives Philadelphia more paths to winning. That has often been the missing piece. Previous Sixers teams could look strong, but many of them still felt like they needed one specific version of the game to win. This version has more flexibility. That is why the optimism feels more grounded than usual.